Hi everyone. So I want to give you some extra information about your social science question about human behavior. So we first saw this question in Project 2, and you're going to revisit the question again in your 6-2-1 assignment, in the 7-1-2 assignment that is ungraded. And I will suggest if you've struggled with your question, I think it's important that you submit that to get some feedback on a revised question. And you're also going to be using it a lot in your Project 3 assignment. So that's why it's important to get this correct. So I think the best way to start off is to talk about some of the great questions I've seen. So one of the ones that I saw that was really good, a person looked beyond what was in the ad, looked at the human behavior, and thought a little bit deeper. Are the grades of school children higher within families where the mother is the breadwinner and the father does the child rearing compared to the children whose parents have the traditional roles? Now, this was based off of that Tide with a Touch of Downy commercial. And the person actually stopped and said, well, I wonder what the difference is in how these children succeed in life. I wonder how it impacts grades. And the person even, had follow-up questions like, I wonder if it impacts, the peers the person has. I wonder if it impacts this person's overall life. So this was just a piece of what she saw in looking at this. And so it's reading deeper than just what's in the ad and thinking about the ripple effect, what goes beyond what you're seeing, but it still keeps it as human behavior within the ad because you're asking about the family's status as the mother working and the father staying at home and what happens in those kind of things, what happens in those kind of families. And so that's why this is an acceptable question. This is actually a question about the human behavior, the father staying home, and what happens. The next question, the gentleman who submitted this actually had seen behavior in several ads, and it led him to this question, and he had great reasons for it. Why are men so concerned about what society thinks about them when it comes to making personal decisions about their lives? He actually read into what was in the ads and saw these men making these decisions and having these behaviors and actually thought about it and said, wow, these men are actually really worried about what other people think of them and about what's going to happen when they make this choice. So he actually didn't just look at the behavior, but read into the behavior and said, wow, all these men had concerned looks upon their faces, and this is why I think this. So again, it's about human behavior in the ads. The third question actually came from that wrinkle cream commercial. How can people interact with each other and not stereotype regarding age? And this came from the person's observation that many women tend to do things to make themselves look younger because of the way people are treated in society when they get older. And so that's where this question kind of came from. It came from those beliefs and those observations. And so again, it's about the human behavior in the ad. It's about her using the wrinkle cream and what happens to her because she uses it. And you can see she's always happy and interacting with people. And so that was one of the things she thought about is the difference as we interact and age. So the next one, this is similar to the first one, but it's actually broader. How are gender roles being changed in society today? And this person within the explanation had actually talked about the fact that, even as recently as the 1960s, many women did not work at all. They stayed home and took care of the children, they took care of the house, they took care of, you know, everything domestic, and that was it. They never worked. But in these ads, we're looking at women who are working, women who have jobs. And that was something that really interested this person, just that all of this has changed. This has changed within some people's lifetimes where they have seen women go from being a homemaker to suddenly having corporate jobs. And so that was where this came from for this person. Gender roles being changed in society based on what was being observed in the ad, the human behavior of women working and the human behavior of men rearing children and all of these things. So the next one, it sounds like a very basic question, and it is, but it's very insightful in a lot of ways. Some of you use the ad where the boy and the girl are building something and the father is sitting there watching. So the question one person posed was, do the boy and girl feel used by their father? Very straightforward, very simple question. Think about if that were you. You know, this person reported feeling that, she would feel used if she had a parent who just sat there while she built something like that. Um, it really is, it's a very simple question. You're just looking at the behavior where the father is sitting there and the children are working and thinking about how they're feeling. How might they be feeling? This next one, again, is really just based on what the person saw in the ad. A woman was sitting alone. There was a group of people sitting off to the side. And it was, well, why is this woman sitting all by herself? Why didn't she join the group? And that's a great question. I mean, that's a psychology question, a sociology question. What is it that made her sit on the opposite side of the room and not engage with anyone? Why is she over there? That's another really good question. And it's a very basic one. It's very simplistic. This is the behavior. The last one, this one, why does society view alcohol use and abuse as acceptable? The reason why this one is a good question is because it's not asking about what does the audience think or anything like that. It is actually taking images from the ads where people are celebrating drinking. And it's a whole group of people celebrating drinking and celebrating alcohol within these ads. And so you're actually looking at people who are celebrating alcohol use and celebrating alcohol abuse. And so that's where this comes from, the behavior of people celebrating drinking. So now that we've kind of talked about some of the good questions I've seen, we're going to talk about questions that don't work. So remember, if you're asking about the audience, about the ad itself, about marketing, about why they cast someone in a certain role, those are all unacceptable questions. So when you ask about a target audience, you're asking about who the marketing team wants to be watching this ad. You're not talking about human behavior happening in the ad. Same thing when you think about what do they want people to think, you're talking about what the marketing team is trying to portray. You're not talking about the actual behavior. Asking about the ad's perception in a different country, again, that's a question about the ad and a question about the audience. The next question is about marketing. It's about casting. Why did they cast that particular person? Why does society view this ad a certain way? This ad as being acceptable. Notice the difference with this one. Why does society view this ad? You're not asking about the behavior in the ad. You're asking about the ad itself. And so that's why this question is not acceptable. You're asking about the ad. And again, why did they make this ad with a woman? You're asking about the marketing team and why they did something in the ad. What message are they sending about young people? You're asking about the marketing team. What did the marketing team want you to think? What did they want you to believe? And that's not a human behavior taking place in the ad. That's what the marketing team is pushing on you. And of course, the last one, who are they hoping will buy this product? You're asking about the product and you're asking about the marketing. You're asking about who they're trying to get to buy something. And so that's not a behavior in the ad. So a few tips on creating your question. Don't view these as ads. And I've said this in the videos for the assignments. Imagine this is taking place right in front of you. Think about it that way. And sometimes that can help because you can actually pull yourself out and just imagine you're sitting there, for example, with people celebrating in the bar. Imagine you're sitting right there in the bar with them. So also think about what is happening in the ad. Don't think about the people who made it. Don't think about the product. Don't think about the people watching the ad. Think about just what you're seeing in the ad. And of course, consider some of the topics we've covered this term, bias, stereotypes, prejudice. You can think about psychology and ask, what is this person feeling? What is this person thinking? Why is this person doing this? Those are all social science questions. And of course, if it helps, you can make a list of all the behaviors you see and then ask yourself if any of these are worth thinking more deeply about. So, you might have a list of things like, the woman is walking down the street. The men are looking at the woman. The woman's holding a sandwich. Well, what could you ask? What about the behavior would a social scientist be interested in? So, in creating your question, the thing that I can't stress enough is that you're looking at the human behavior taking place in the ad. And I do think a good tip is to remove the word ad from your question. That'll help. Don't think about ad, don't think about audience, don't think about any of that. Think about those people as if they were real human beings sitting right next to you. And when you do that, it can make it a lot easier to ask some questions. And you don't necessarily have to think deeply like some of those other people did. You could ask some of those basic questions. You could ask, what is this person feeling? Why is the person sitting alone?